Hey there, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of That's How We Roll, a bi-weekly podcast where I talk with motivating and inspiring women who are professionals, entrepreneurs, organization leaders, artists, and so much more. And leading the pack in all things fabulous is this week's guest, Jane Applegate, a writer, producer, coach, and creator. Jane is a writer and producer that is all about highlighting women. She has written and produced award-winning independent films, primarily written, produced, and directed by and about women. She is currently working on a hybrid feature documentary, Left Bank, which tells the untold story of 4 remarkable feminists who supported Irish author James Joyce. But wait, that's not all. Jane is also a teacher and an author of 4 books on small business success, but she is not done. Her 5th book, Hair on Fire, An Insider's Guide to Producing for the Big and Small Screen, is available on Amazon. She is also co-founder of Showbizzing.com, a career coaching and production consulting company she co-founded with producer Julie Crosby. So please welcome the woman's woman about town, Jane Applegate. And you know I really want to sing Jane the song, but I better not because I don't want to get any copyright infringements. Welcome,
Hey,
Jane.
it's great to be with you, Avis. I miss seeing your smiling face at all the events we hung out at,
Oh,
but
I
soon
know.
we'll be back.
Soon we'll be back, yes. And it's so marvelous to chat with you, too. And I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to beguile the guests and the listeners with you being here. I'm so happy.
Thank you. I love your show, so I'm very proud to be on it.
Oh, thank you. Well, you are among some of the busiest people that I know, and now you have this current project, Left Bank. And I'm so excited to learn more about it. So can you talk about it a little bit? And how did this project come about?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. A really good friend of mine made a short film, and it was about the American bookseller who decided to publish the Irish author James Joyce's book. He had written this book called Ulysses 100 years ago. That's still considered one of the greatest modern novels of all times. And she did a short film about how without this young American publisher, no one would know who the heck this guy is. And then she wanted to expand it into a longer film and a different project. And I was just really intrigued, not just about telling his story, but finding out that there were actually 4 women who were the ones that supported him in every way. And that's the story we're telling in Left Bank. And the cool thing is that the Left Bank story, which is Left Bank because it all takes place on the left bank of Paris, is actually going to now be the pilot for a series of stories about women behind famous men. And we feel like we should just lift the curtain and starting to collect stories from all over the world and want to go in there and do maybe a limited series or something about women who supported these famous men, and we just don't know who they are. So that's my project.
It sounds fantastic. The Left Bank of Paris, yes. All these streaming services are about. So hopefully your project can be picked up and it can be streamed worldwide for everybody to see.
Yeah. Well, we're starting out with a short version because I love a deadline, and next year is the 100th anniversary of the publication of Ulysses, this famous book. And I come out of deadline journalism, and so when I heard we had till February to do the short version of the film, I have an amazing all-female production team with producers here in the States and also in France and in Ireland, and did a little Kickstarter campaign, and we're just hustling around, and we're going to do a short film that'll premiere in February, and then we'll be working on the longer versions into next year.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you about the Kickstarter program because I saw that on your social media that you did have this Kickstarter program, so it looks good. So how's that coming along?
Well, we made our goal, which is
Yeah.
great because with Kickstarter, you set a goal, and if you don't make it, you get zero, nothing. So yeah, we raised $28,000, which is pretty awesome. And then we've got
That is awesome.
Yeah, then we got some private investors, and we're now raising money through New York Women in Film and Television. So we have NYWIFT as a fiscal sponsor. So anyone who wants to contribute anything, they get a little tax write-off. So yeah, so this film is all about women, being made by women, and I just still feel at this point, it's kind of sad that we have to focus on telling stories about women when we rule the world, and
Right.
most people know it. But it's going to be fun, and I get to work with my really terrific young protege, a French director who I helped her set up her company 10 years ago, and we've done small projects, but I'm really excited. I'm actually moving to France in October to work in her office full time and get this film made.
Do you need somebody to carry your paperwork? Because I'm available.
I wish. I mean, officially, I hope no one in the French government's listening, because I'm as an American, I'm not allowed to work without a formal work permit. So I'm really volunteering on this film back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just feel like I've been doing a lot of teaching. I teach at the Brooklyn College Graduate Film School, and doing a lot of mentoring and consulting. And I always said, that's it, never going back on a film set. But this film really just kind of lit my fuse and got me going again. So
your heart
fun.
spoke. It was something that really spoke to you.
Right, exactly. It's definitely a passion project. We're all literally working on spec and spirit. We're just, no one's being paid, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
But we will be, be compensating people once we raise a little bit more money.
Sure.
Yeah. But you just can't, when people say, oh, I need $1 million, or I have to get this or that, and they just get stuck. And I always encourage people, just use what you have. You'll have everything you need. Just, it's right in front of you.
I didn't mention it, but you did. I wanted to say that Jane is also an active member of NYWIFT, as am I, and that's how I met Jane, just being so involved. And I wanted to congratulate you. You said it already, but I wanted to congratulate you for them being your fiscal sponsor for this project.
Yes, they're great. I know a lot of board members, and I've taught a lot of seminars, and I'm also involved in a spin-off kind of NYWIFT called the Women Independent Producers. So that's another wonderful group that have been serving on the board, but I'm going to step down from the board while I'm working on the film. But that's another collaboration of about 150 women around the world, and that's what we are, independent producers.
That's great. And so can you talk about that a little more, just about what this group does?
Well, the cool thing is we have a website, and it's womenindependentproducers.org, just one long word. And it's kind of a directory. You'll see little thumbnail sketches of a portrait and a little blurb on what everybody's doing and looking for. And so filmmakers can send a message through the WIP website and say they are looking for a producer, and give a little overview of their film. So we're kind of like a matchmaking service. We try to match directors and writers with producers, because without a producer, you don't have a film. So that's the main purpose. And then once a month, we used to do this in person, but once a month now we meet online, and it's really a support group. It's like a safe space where you can say, I need a gaffer, I need a sound person. So we share resources, and then we do a lot of venting, which I think everybody in this business needs to vent. So it's just it's a safe space, and we sometimes have guests come in, and it's just great. It's a wonderful organization, and we actually just got a fiscal sponsorship, and so the group's growing, and there'll be more on that in the fall. But yeah, I find that all the working professional women I know are very generous. If I need something, I can call you. It's just, I feel like, why not share information and support each other? It's really important. It's always helped my career, so I'm really trying to pay it forward.
Yeah, I can see that with all the different things. You have your business, and your business is to try to get people involved, or to teach people how to produce, how to go about and get funding and that kind of any kind of money for their project. It is all about always raising money, because a lot of us in this industry, we have regular jobs, because you have to, sometimes you can't afford to not work in order to rent spaces if you need to shoot a project. I mean, I see that all the time with different people when they want to make movies. They have to have a regular 9 to 5 job just to do the basics. So it is good when there are organizations or a way to get money to help fund your passion project, because that's basically what a lot of people are doing. They are trying to fund their passion project so that the next stage that they go through, they will be able to get money, because sometimes you have to have a project or you have to have made some kind of headway in order to get money on the next project after that, and so on and so forth.
Right, right. And I think, the other thing is I teach one of the few business classes in any film school in America, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I teach a class I developed called The Business of Film. And it's just remarkable that people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars going to film school, especially the fancy ones, not like Brooklyn College, which is the most diverse and affordable film school in the country, I must say. But, I teach just how to put the company together. How do you hire a lawyer? Why do you need an accountant? And it's just kind of shocking that so many filmmakers have no clue that, they know how to write, or they know how to shoot or edit, but they have no idea that you need a separate bank account, for instance, and you need a bookkeeping program, and you've got to have a tax ID number. And so I feel really good about this class I put together. And then I do a lot of workshops and seminars. And Julie and I have a really fun thing. If you go to showbizzing.com, you can sign up for a free 20-minute chat with us. It's kind of like the doctor is in. We get people from all over the world. They get 20 minutes on Zoom, and they have to tell us their story, what they need to get unstuck, and then we just toss out ideas. So that's a really great free resource for people.
And sometimes that 20 minutes turns into your business. It turns into a client, correct?
Right. So we have classes that we offer that are very affordable, like short-term, like a crash course. And we have one called Focus Your Lens, which just helps you get unstuck when you're kind of in the middle of your career and you're like, what? And obviously the past year and a half with the pandemic has been really tough on creatives. My school laid off people. My husband lost his job. I mean, it was crazy. But I feel like right now things are really moving, and I'm sure you find this too. It feels like the earth is spinning again.
Mm-hmm.
And people are busy. It's hard to book a crew. It's hard to find a location. It's kind of exciting, even with the COVID restrictions that, for instance, the Screen Actors Guild, I was told, won't let up on their crazy COVID restrictions until next spring. So, it's costing a lot more money with all the safety protocols, but producers are like, okay, we're going to put that money in the budget and we're going to get people back to work.
It's not just SAG-AFTRA. This is this is IATSE. This is all the film crew that are working. We all got together and came up with these protocols to present to the producers, because if everybody is sick, and if you're having people at that time, there was no vaccine. And so people were dying. So the last thing you wanted to do is be responsible for half of your people being in the hospital, some of them never to get out of the hospital.
Right, sure.
So in all fairness, it wasn't just SAG-AFTRA. This was all the organizations that, and I do applaud them. I understand from a producer standpoint, but now we got back to work, so people are working slowly but surely, and I really the pandemic isn't over. People are vaccinated and they are acting freer, but people are still getting sick and they're still spreading the virus. The vaccinated people won't end up being in the hospital, but the work is still going on. So I am glad about that.
Right. Yeah, and I'm certainly not objecting to the safety protocols. I'm just saying that it adds about 30% to your budget. So you have to be just aware of that. But there's Julie, my collaborator, is working on a film which will be shot in the fall. And one way they're figuring out how to have a super safe set is they're renting a motel where half of it will be used to actually shoot the film, and then the other half will be used for housing. So they're going to create a pod, with the crew, and then also keep everyone separate. And, so you have to be really creative as a producer to work around these things. And of course, nobody wants to get sick. But I mean, if you think about these giant productions have been shut down with one case. So imagine a small, low budget production, you have to be super careful.
But that's really a smart thing to do in a situation. Just like you said, they booked a hotel and they used it as a pod. I call it like a little, I guess like a colony, like you're living in a space for a while, because you never know when who somebody's going to come in contact with when they leave the set. And,
Right.
One of the productions that I was working on had car services because they didn't want people to be on the subway being in contact with a lot of people during rush hour, even non-rush hour, to be exposed to stuff and then bring it to the set. And still, the set was shut down. Several sets were shut down because someone tested positive, which could have been a false positive or a false negative. Just because somebody tested negative doesn't mean that they actually were. It just showed that it was negative. So I did feel, and I think I've said this before on this podcast, that I felt that being on film sets were the safest place because no one had to go out of their way to get tested. You had to be tested 48 hours before the first day or before your fitting, and then you were tested every day that you showed up on the set. So I did feel that it was a safe place because my friends that are working in other industries, sometimes they never got tested and then they went to work every day. So you never know who you came in contact with. At least we knew that everybody was tested, and it was easier for contact tracing because the production knew.
Right. Yeah, no, I think the entertainment industry has done a really good job. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of pent up demand. I mean, one positive thing that came out of the pandemic is that a lot of really top decision makers, at the networks, at the streamers and the studios, they were very available. And so if you were in development on projects, you actually could get a Zoom meeting with people who in normal times you would never get some, face-to-face time with. So a lot of projects that some of my friends and colleagues I've worked on have been greenlit in the past few months because they learned how to pitch on Zoom,
Right.
which is tough because, I teach a lot of pitching workshops and in my classes, and as an actress, you kind of want to audition and read the room, get a vibe, and it's very hard when you're staring at a box.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But one good thing is that people weren't looking at their phones. That's the worst when you go to a meeting. I mean, I actually have a firm policy. If I'm with you in a human to human, and it's fine if you look at your phone and it's like your kid who's stranded or, something happened at school. But if I'm having a meeting with someone and they take a call or they're texting, I just am very quiet. And I say, this is not working for me. And if you're not going to be present and we're not having a conversation, then I'm going to just wrap this up. And you would not believe how many people look at me like I'm crazy.
I know.
And then I just say, maybe we'll reschedule, or I said, but this is really, kind of rude. And I'm fine with, and then I'm like, if those other calls are more important than sitting here with me, that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here while you're on the phone or texting 6 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And especially if you haven't said, listen, there's a problem with my kids, so I'll just let you know I need to look at my phone because I need to track them. But some people are just talking about their dinner plans for the evening or something like that. I've worked events where people will come up and they're actually talking on the phone, but you need to talk to them. Like they're trying to register for something. And I'm like, can you just step to the side? Let me take the next person until you finish your phone call. You'd be surprised at how quickly they get off the phone.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's important to be respectful. I mean, everybody's time is precious, and it's just, I don't know. I learned a lot about dealing with people when I was a working reporter. I mean, my job was listening, really not asking questions. And so I learned, how to be respectful and listen and don't interrupt people. and then you just find people that are just like have absolutely no social skills, and I think I don't want to be with this person. I'm done. I have one other tip, that my little beef of the week is that I did a very unsatisfying week of trying to attend the Cannes Film Festival online, which was just kind of a disaster. The platform didn't work, and nothing was working for me. But I got a contact from a film distributor, and he said, let's set up a phone call after the festival or between things. And we set up a call, and he starts talking about how disastrous documentaries are, and that they're, nobody wants them, and it's really, he just was like super negative. And I said, excuse me, I said, did you actually look at my website or look at who you're speaking? Look up anything about me? And he said, no, I've been too busy.
Oh.
And I said, excuse me, I'm ending this conversation. I said, this is incredibly disrespectful. I said, who would agree to go to a meeting or get on a phone call or a Zoom with somebody when you know nothing about what they're doing?
How can you even talk to them about that? What are you even discussing?
Yeah, it was so furious. And I just I said, you're telling me that the documentary market is terrible when I know it's not, because I consult on the distributing documentaries and I'm making one. And he was just like, oh, well, sorry, I've been too busy to look anything up about you or your project.
Oh my God. That is hilarious,
shocking.
Though. Yes, but that is so funny. Oh, I just can't be bothered talking to you, Jane.
He set up the call. That's the worst part, Eve, is he sought me out on the networking platform. Anyway, I've told that story to a few people. I'm just like, this was really upsetting. And then we also decided that I don't think a woman would ever do that. Mm-mm. If you were wanted to have a phone call with someone, don't you think you'd spend 4 minutes looking them up and visiting their website?
Something. I mean, why would you even set up the call? But maybe his people set up the call. I mean, who knows?
I don't know. Anyway, so that's one of my big gripes of the month, is that it's so easy to find out information and to engage with someone on something personal. And I learned this when I was a cub reporter, and I was like a deer in headlights going to talk to big corporate executives. And one of the most big corporate person, the first one I ever really had to go interview, I was terrified. I was like, I'd done all my research. I had my little folder, and I walked in this guy's office, and we sat down, and they offered me a cold drink. And the first thing he said is, it's lovely to meet you. I know you're a new reporter at the LA Times, and you're going to be writing about my company. He said, but first I want to ask you, has your daughter Jeannie won any horseback riding ribbons lately? And I was just like, what? How does this man know about my daughter's writing passion?
Research.
Yes. And this was pre-internet, basically. He had a whole team of people. He had a folder on me. And he was so gracious and wanted to talk about my family and what brought me to the city. And I'll never forget that. And from that moment on, I thought, I'm never walking into a meeting or setting up a phone call unless I know something good about that person.
I know. Take the time. It's so bizarre because I use LinkedIn a lot. And there are people that find me and I don't mind connecting with them. I mean, that's not the problem, but they just don't read the profile. So they're asking me questions about their services, about, setting up a meeting time with them to talk about this service that me as an actor or an independent contractor that I actually have no use for. People will just connect, and they have no idea what who or what they're connecting to. So I'm just surprised at how, especially with the internet nowadays, how people just assume that everybody that's on LinkedIn does the same thing and they need whatever they have, but in actuality, you don't.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up LinkedIn, because that's a huge part of the career coaching that we do with our clients. It used to be very business-like, and a lot of entertainment professionals were just like, no, I don't need a LinkedIn profile. But Julie, who's the LinkedIn guru on our little company, she has shown how important it is and what great connections you can make if you have a really great profile. So we do a lot with clients going through everything and just saying, make sure you tell people the skills you have and don't just brag on yourself. And, that rectangle that's behind your picture on the top of the page, use that real estate. Do something cool, and you can do a free banner. You can go on Adobe Spark and make a really cool banner that just fits in that LinkedIn template, and update it and then get recommendations. I mean, it takes a few minutes a week, but I was such a negative Nelly about LinkedIn until she really kicked me and said, your profile is terrible.
Until she schooled you. She took you to class.
Yes. And so I had to, practice what we preach, and I built up my network has increased by about 700 people in the past year. And it's, strategic. And I know we connected on LinkedIn. So,
right.
I mean, we know each other,
right.
But that's how you reached out to me. And it's really just great. And I just got to somebody I really need to get to pitch something about my film on LinkedIn. I just, went to the organization, found the press person and said, here's my story. Who do I speak to at your organization? And she sent me the email, and it was because it was professional, and she probably looked me up and thought I wasn't a nut, and she'd give me the info.
But LinkedIn really is a good resource for people in this industry, for the entertainment professionals, because in so many cases, like in between my acting gigs, like I've done, business work. I've worked in offices, I've done events, and companies like creatives because they look at things a little differently. And I've actually gotten more work because they want somebody part-time, but they want somebody that will pick up things fast and be able to help them. And I guess, it's like the left brain, the right brain, or whatever, that personality type. So for actors, for the most part, we will just go in and do whatever it is that we have to do. And then we will improv it. You don't call it that in the business world, but that's basically what it is.
Right,
you
right.
will improv it, and they like that. So LinkedIn is really great for that because people are looking for part-time people. And a positive thing that happened during the pandemic is that people realize that, hey, I don't have to go to work every day to do my job. I don't have to be sitting in an office. And I think people worked smarter and harder probably because they were able to be at home. They had to be at home with their children in the height of the pandemic. I've seen so many more jobs where they are hiring people in other states across the country. Mm-hmm. And they are saying it is a virtual job.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. The virtual work. And I don't know, I think I was disappointed that my classes all moved online, but I have to tell you, the one benefit was I could book speakers every week who would never make the time to schlep to Brooklyn and go to my school, actually physically go to the campus, even though it's fabulous. We're in the middle of the Steiner studio in Brooklyn. But so it actually improved the quality of the guest speakers for my class because I had people coming in from, LA, San Francisco, all over New York, different places. And it was very easy for me to say, can you give me an hour? And we also pay an honorarium, which is unusual. The private schools pay nothing. I've spoken at NYU and the new school. They didn't even give me a Metro card. But Brooklyn College Graduate School, Fierstein School, we pay speakers. And so anyway, it was like pretty great. And I said, well, can we still pay them virtually? And the dean said, of course. Yeah, they're giving a time. And it just helped all my students network. And that's the other thing that we really focus on with the whole showbizzing thing is that you're only as good as the people that you know. And so we force our clients to really focus in on making a literal list of 25 people who are all different, categories, the cheerleaders that you call when you're feeling terrible and something fell through, then all the professionals you need, the lawyer, the accountant, an agent, a manager, and it takes a lot of work. But when people finish this list, they're just like, whoa, these are real people. And this is how I'm going to map out a strategy for success. Because, this is a who you know business. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so important. We also make a section for like real reach, like an aspirational list. And people will say, well, I would love to someday present something to, like Ava DuVernay's company. And then we're like, okay, you put her on your list and you'll be surprised that you actually know somebody who can get you to her people. So it's not that difficult. It's not that big of an industry that you can't figure it out. And we also, use IMDb Pro a lot, which is another tip I would say. If you, spring for the money, and you can get contact information for everybody in the entertainment world.
What is one thing that you wish that you would have known before you began your career that you could share?
Well, that's a good question, because I did not go to film school. I did not take a straight trajectory. I came sideways into producing from being a journalist and writing books and having to learn how to speak. I was terrified of speaking in public, so I got a speaking coach, and I really had to go from being kind of it's people who know me can't believe I was like not a outward facing person. I was pretty shy, and I just didn't want to be up on a stage. But I think what I wish I had known was how really to have built my network sooner. I mean, I just was kind of naive about, I'd be like, well, I went out to be on that show or produce that. And then I realized I just wasn't really connecting with the right people. And also when I got to New York, it was, later in my career, and so many people had already gone to film school or gone to business school. So I kind of wish I'd been more aware of what we're teaching now, which is to, it's all about the people. And I think it's never too late to expand your network, and always offer to do something before you ask somebody for something. That's a real important thing, because, nobody wants to be called up and I'm going to ask you a favor. And you're like, I don't even know you.
Yeah,
like, what do you, we're very big on, offer. And then you can ask somebody for something.
What advice would you give to someone? I know you have your company, but is there any advice, just say to a newbie before they realize, hey, I need showbizzing.com? What advice would you give someone trying to pursue a career in producing or independent filmmaking, documentary filmmaking?
Well, I would say get on as many projects as you can as a volunteer. I mean, everybody can use an extra pair of hands, a PA, bake cookies, work in craft services. I mean, I was an executive at a big documentary production company, but I wanted to make films. So I just, people were like, why would you give up this 6-figure job to, give out meal money and cut up carrots? I think you have to be humble, so I think so I just said, I will work on any film, anybody's film, anyone who will have me. And I think that, and I tell that to people who are sort of mid-career or newbies, just get out there and volunteer, even if it's 2 days on a super low budget set, and always be, on time, professional, respectful, just know what the rules are. I mean, I try to explain that it's a very military, setup on a set. You get a PA that'll be like, well, I'm going to go say hi to the director. And you're sort of like, no, you're not. So, like, just know the protocol, be humble. Really, I was literally serving carrots on Madison Avenue with a bandana around my head and running around. And one of my former colleagues at this big company said, what the heck are you doing? They could not believe it. And I said, well, this is how you cross the line and get into independent filmmaking.
Exactly. You're like, listen, this is my inroad. I am on my way. I have a path. And if I need to do this job to do this, that's what I'm going to do.
Right. And
like
I was paid with
humble.
a Metro. Yeah, I was paid with a Metro card. And I actually got to shadow a very well-known producer who soon promoted me to, I was eventually a unit production manager and a line producer, because production's production. I mean, this is the funny part. In the past, everyone in film was like, we're never going to do television. And now, everybody wants to do streaming and television.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the actual job skills are exactly the same as a producer. Everything I do is the same, whether I was getting paid, $100,000 a project or $10.
Or just a Metro card.
Yes, I know. And I was the best job I had, and I don't think this happens as much anymore, but if you used to be able to give people walk away meal money. and I was the money giver, and it was great. I had a clipboard. I knew everybody, every department, every crew member, and I was popular because if you wanted to eat lunch, you had to go see me.
And everybody wanted to make sure that they got their money.
Exactly. And now it's not done. I don't think mostly things are catered or whatever with COVID. It's like you get it in a bag and you eat by yourself.
Right. Well, even when they do meal money, even before COVID, if you're in a place like when you shoot in Manhattan, they give it to you as part of your check sometimes.
Oh, I see. Right. Per diem. But yeah, when I started, you could still get a pretty great lunch for $10 in Manhattan.
Yes.
Now I don't think that would happen.
What motivates you and what keeps you motivated?
Well, I just think that, I've always been a storyteller. I've been writing since I was 10 or 11. So I just think, there's always good stories to tell. And I loved my reporting career. I loved meeting new people, telling their stories. So it's kind of fun now to be in a position to pick and choose the stories I tell. And all the films I've made have had female stories and mostly the crew and the cast. And I don't know, it's just something I made a commitment to do. I have to say I have worked with some first-time directors, both male and female, and those were always, challenging. If you don't know what you're doing, it was a lot of stress and anxiety, but I've never not finished a shoot. I'm very proud to say that. I've had people quitting and fleeing and crashing into things, and I'm always there from beginning to end. But I think this series we're working on now, this Left Bank project, I feel like there's so many cool stories about women that have not been told. So while I have any more energy, I'm deciding to tell these. And also I love the idea of it kind of being global. We have stories in England and Ireland and Asia, and we're just starting to collect stories about women in history that were behind famous men that you just wouldn't even know you wouldn't know the men if you weren't aware of the women behind them. So it's kind of a cool idea, and it's getting some interest, and we're pitching and producing a sizzle reel, and we're very excited about people seem curious.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any words of wisdom that you can leave with us today?
I think just be kind, be honest, figure out what you can do to help somebody along. I do a lot of mentoring, a lot of coaching. As I say, we have these free sessions, which are great. You just go to showbizzing.com and you click on give me a free consultation, because we're always learning. And I think, being generous and honest, and really try not to trash talk people. It's such a small business. We all know each other. And when I hear somebody saying something not nice about somebody that maybe you and I know, I'm just like, that's wrong. That's like a very bad thing, and it will give you some bad karma. So I think just being honest and generous, and it can't hurt. I mean, when people ask me for something, if I can help them, I will. And if I can't, I'll be like, you know what? I don't have the answer to that, but I know somebody who does. And I just kind of keep spreading the good karma.
Well, that's why I think that's one of the reasons that you have the success that you have, because you are giving and you are very women focused, and it says it in your projects. So I just wish you the best of luck. Congratulations on this project, on the Kickstarter program, and all the great things that you're doing. And I just can't wait for it. I'm going to get pom-poms. I don't need pom-poms. You just know, Jane, how much I admire you and just love and adore you. So I'm so thankful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, and you will be at the New York premiere of my film, Avis. Don't worry about that. And then also, if people want to get a very fun read that's also practical, is my book Hair on Fire, and it's on Amazon. It's a click away. It's a practical guide to producing, but the best part is there's interviews with 15 different industry professionals, from a stunt director to a makeup artist. So it's a real fast read, and if you want to read more about my adventures in show business, it's a fun book to pick up.
Oh, well, yes, it is. The other 4 books, what are the other 4 books about?
They're all on small business because I was the small business columnist at the LA Times. So they're all about entrepreneurs and their secrets of success. Some of them are still out there. I have one called 201 Great Ideas for Your Small Business. And that was the most fun job I had for about 10 years. I just interviewed successful entrepreneurs all around the world and got to travel and meet people. And I just felt like I was the conduit. I wasn't giving the advice, but like you were giving the advice, and I would write something fun and share it. Yeah, just there's a lot of good free information out there. And just remember, before you meet with anyone, look them up.
Yes.
Don't be like that dope who called me and didn't know what I was doing or who I was. It's been wonderful talking with you, Avis.
Thank you. I'm going to have everything about Jane in the show notes and all the links. So if you want to contribute or just want to connect with her, tell everybody how they can support Left Bank.
Well, the best and simplest way is to go to the NYWIF.org site. And when you go through the list of films that NYWIF is fiscally sponsoring, you will find Left Bank. And that's the easiest way to make a tax-deductible donation, and then NYWIF benefits, and the film gets more money to keep going.
And please make sure that you like and share the podcast. Please support the film, and I cannot wait for this to come to fruition.
Terrific. Thank you.
Jane, I just want to say one more time, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on everything that you're doing. Much, much success and blessings on everything that you are even thinking about doing. And I thank you so much for being here.
Okay, wonderful. And I hope to see you in person real soon.
I hope so too. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, checking out the podcast. Thank you for inviting me into your space. And until next time, I hope you will continue to thrive, grow, and be kind to yourselves and be kind to others.